Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
so I won't take up any more time, but I want you to really go into your story. Give us a brief story of how you became the creative that you are today. Take us on your creative journey, Shawana.
This is always a very hard question, but before I begin, Cide, thank you so much for inviting me. I am amazed at all the reactions. It's funny, I don't do Zoom that much, and I have not done Zoom that much until Corona came. And as I watch these comments and these women, I feel like I know you guys. I feel like I can touch you, I can feel you. And I think that plays into the fact that we need to be a little bit more social, and it's really difficult. So thank you for creating this space, this opportunity, this platform for us to be able to connect today. So my journey, gosh, it has been incredible. It's been challenging. It's been meaningful. It's been educational. There's been a lot of highs. There's been a lot of lows. Um, but I think what it's done, it's given me a very winning spirit. I refuse to lose. And so I've been able to get through these 21 years um, like a boss. I'm really, really excited to share with you guys. One of the things that my journey has helped is to mold me into the person that I am today. I have not I regretted anything that has happened along the way. So just to tell you a little bit about what I do, I guess I'd call myself a serial entrepreneur. I started back in 1999, and it's been going strong ever since. Um, I started off in 1990 with, well, actually before that, it started in 98. I created an organization called the Cashel Connection. And the Cashel Connection was an opportunity for people, for creatives really, to connect with each other through an event. It was basically a networking event, but more so like an open mic where we had, a fashion show. We had musicians, artists, comedians, and sort of brought them all together. This started while I was in college. I've always been the type of person that wants to make people feel beautiful, feel worthy, feel honored, feel empowered. It's just been a thing, and I love to connect people. So all the businesses that I've created had one or many of those elements in it. And that's what makes me happy. That's what brings me joy and satisfaction, to be able to give while I'm creating. So the Cashel Connection was the first part of my business back while I was in college. When I got out of school, and I'll share this a little bit later on the reason why I started my own business. But I decided to start something called Cashel Inc. I was a photographer. My photography was my hobby, and it became a full-time career. I started a photography company, and it was a challenge because it was my first business. I had no direction, but it worked for me. That company was birthed out of a very horrible story, and like I said, I will share that. But it made me who I am today. After Cashel Inc., there was a recession in 2008, and I lost my company, and I went to Liberia. I decided that I needed a change in my life, so I went to Liberia, and I was working from my car. I had a background in graphics, and I started to do designs for people's businesses, and so it was kind of like a little marketing thing, and that would give me some money that I needed to succeed. I went through a horrible divorce after 10 years, and it broke me. It absolutely broke me. But as women, we are extremely resilient. And so I rose up, and boy, did I rise up. Um, I made a decision that I was not going to allow that situation to determine my future. I had two daughters. I had adopted a little girl while I was in Liberia, my baby today, Miss Serafina. She'll be turning 15 this year. Adopted her when she was 4, but actually next month. Yeah, and so then I opened up a salon. I opened up a guest house. I opened up a creative arts center. I adopted 46 children unofficially. I mean, there's just so much. There's just so much that has happened, Celia, that this webinar could not possibly get all that in there. But that's just the basis. That's who I am. That's where I've come from. And yeah. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start my video. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was extremely powerful. I know some of the women are here saying thank you for sharing. Amen. Uh, Incredible. Refuse to lose. And that's also one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, because you are phenomenal. You are incredible. I don't know if you all can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, much better. I'll do without the earphones. But what I want us to do now is, for the ladies that are on here, and they're saying, I don't know if you can see the chat, Shawana, but they're saying you're an inspiration. Thanks for sharing. Thanks
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at, oh, this is wonderful.
Beautiful. So what I want us to do now is sort of share some of our experiences and things that we can really equip those women who are on here with, right? So I truly believe that there's power in sharing our stories. And I know you do, show as a storyteller. We can sometimes learn more from people's stories and experiences than just when people give us information, right? And so that's why it was so important to start off with our stories for me. And some of you ladies may be able to relate to some parts of those. Some of you may not be able to relate, but there's something that you can learn in that. And so what I want to do is sort of go into this next segment. And my first question to you, Show, is really, I lost my notes. Hold on one moment, y'all. Is I want to know, what is purpose to you, and why is it important or relevant? Why?
Okay. Ooh, okay, so purpose for me goes hand in hand with passion. And I pulled up a quote that I live by daily that I'd like to share with you guys. And I'm reading it because I don't want to make stuff up. And it's a quote by Maya Angelou. And if you've heard it, let me know in your chat. It says, "You can only truly become accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal." Hear me. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things that you love doing, and then do them so well that people can't keep their eyes off you.
Hmm.
If you understand what I'm saying, say I understand in your quote. Because honestly, that has what's gotten me through all of these years, and not losing at what I'm doing and going back to the workforce. Because once you make money your focus, once you make money your goal, you lose sight of everything that you love. You really do. But if you continue doing this thing that you absolutely love doing, like, you don't even have to think about the money starts coming to you. And I'm a living testimony.
Amen.
All right. So purpose for me it begins with a significant crisis in your life. And typically it might be death. It might be the loss of a job. It might be someone telling you that you can't do something. It might be abuse, physical or verbal. And you're just like, I'm so sick and tired of this. I'm going to do this. Okay. It usually begins with a significant crisis. So write this down, y'all. I'm not talking for nothing.
Right.
All right. Purpose also usually ignites a fire in you. It's almost like you're sleeping, right? I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You're in bed and you're sleeping. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, something comes to your mind and you're like looking for a pen or something, or your phone to jot down these notes. See, I know this happens to you.
Yes.
And you're writing something down because you're creator. You're thinking about this. And so you write it down because you're excited about this thing that you're about to create, or this thing that you want to do. So it usually will ignite a fire in you. The other thing is, it inspires you. It brings you joy. Like, It's that thing you want to do when you're
Okay.
tired. It's that thing that you want to think about no matter what. I mean, you'd be sick in bed and you're just, yeah, I really am still thinking about this thing. You know, you
Mm,
just
so
you
true.
want to do it. It brings you so much joy, and or you know you have to do it. It also is that thing that will make you want to risk it all.
Mm,
You know, it's that thing that you're writing, right? Okay. All right. Let me see. You're writing? Chat it up.
yes,
You know,
they
put
are
it in the chat.
writing.
I'm writing. All right. It's that thing that makes you want to risk it all. There are three questions. Okay. I see you writing. I see you
They're
writing.
writing.
Wonderful. There are three questions that I usually ask myself when I'm creating or I'm thinking about this thing that I'm working on, and I'm wondering and praying if this is what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. The first thing is, are you willing to lose sleep over this thing? That's
Mm,
the first question I want you to ask yourself. Are you willing to lose sleep over this thing that you want to create, that you want to manifest? Okay. Your answer has to be yes for it to work. The second thing I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to be uncomfortable every day of your life in order to make this thing happen? Your answer has to be yes. The last thing is, are you willing to conquer your fears? I mean, that fear of rejection, that fear of not making money from it, that fear of what other people are going to say about you if you do this. Are you willing to conquer your fears in order to make this thing happen? That answer also has to be yes. So if these answers are yes, I see you guys putting it there. Yes, is that answer yes over that thing? Then that's what you should be doing. That's your purpose. You're passionate enough about that because your answer is yes. Okay. So, lastly, like I had to write this down because I want to make sure. Some
yes.
people say, well, I don't know how to find my passion. How do I find my passion? I need the steps that you took to find your passion. These are the steps right here. Okay. And I'm going to ask you these questions and I want you to write these answers down if you can think about it. Okay. Just the first thing that comes to your mind. You're not going to be judged. Just write this down or chat, put it in the chat. Okay. The first question is, what do you like to do? Just type in there, what do you like to do? Don't think too hard. What is it that you enjoy doing? Sewing. Okay, I see that. Wonderful. What do you like to do? Just write it in there. Singing. Wonderful. Yes, writing, reading. Guys, put it in there. Just write it down because sometimes in order to activate these things, you've got to write it down. Decorating. Beautiful. Anybody else traveling, girl, I'm with you.
Yes.
Creating new concepts. Yes, feeding. Okay, praise God. All right, come on, put it in there. All right, so what do you like to do? The next question I want you to ask yourself is, what are you naturally good at? Write that down. Type in there, what are you naturally good at? What are you natural? For me, I am naturally good at speaking to people, encouraging people. Oh, a sister just wrote that. Yes, girl.
Yes.
Encouraging people. Yes, me and you. Planning events, observing people, advising people. Yes, Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So write down the things that you're naturally good at. The next question, what is that thing that makes you come alive?
Mm,
What is that thing that brings you so much joy? It could be eating, it could be your children, it could be dancing, it could be music. What is that thing that just makes you come alive? The
mm.
sun, oh, beautiful. Me too. Creativity, yes. I love it. Writing and doing artistic things, beautiful music. Yes,
So good.
yes, yes, yes. And then the last question you want to ask yourself is, what do people count on you for? What do people count on you for? And for me, I think a lot is advice. You know, people will call on me, Shawana, I just need to talk. Shawana, can you listen to me about this? What direction should I go with this? You know, it's always a thing. It's something that I know that people count on me for. So what is it that people count on you for being? Okay, being a confidant, yes. Passion for things I do,
So
my
good.
creativeness, yes. That's awesome. So typically I'll ask myself or I'll share these with other people and say, look at all these things. If there are certain things that you see matching in your answers, maybe that's what your purpose is. If you've written the same answer for more than one of these things, then maybe that's where you need to go.
Mm.
And if any of you have written the same answer, tell me what that answer is that you see resonating in your answers. Like, what is that answer? One answer, if you have it. You can type that in there. If you have two of the same answers, put that in there. Okay. Creating. Yeah. Creating. That's mine. Creating and connecting. Beautiful. So this is an exercise that I do, Side,
Yes.
to help people find their purpose, what it is that they should be doing, and what it is that they should be focusing on. But I have a question for you. You
Yes.
talked a little bit about being or influencing and influence. Can
Yes.
you share with us a little bit about that?
So I love it, Show, what you just shared, because those are things that also help me really discover my purpose, and we're just so on point. And I found that, when we hear the term influence, we automatically think of an influencer, right? So we think of someone who has a lot of likes on social media, who's able to, get people or persuade people to buy things and trends and make a lot of money. But the reality is, each and every one of us was given the power to influence. Like I said in the beginning, we were created in the image of the greatest creator of all time. And so inside of us, we have that influence. And what I want to do is actually share, and I think I hear some background. Okay, share the definition of influence. Like you, I'm a teacher, so I love digging into definitions, because a lot of time we hear words, but we really don't know what they mean, right? And so the definition of influence is the ability to have a positive or negative impact on others, to persuade, convince, or shape the opinion of others, policy, government, our homes, to gain support, to build buy-in from key people. And it's really the act of leveraging your power, impacting and affecting the behaviors and decisions of others. And so when we look at this by definition, each and every one of us, each and every one of you ladies on this call is operating and has the ability to operate with influence. You are an influencer, okay? Prime example. Right now, you are influencing your home. You are influencing your family. You are influencing your children. You are influencing your community. Wives, you are influencing your husband. You are influencing your business. When you show up to work, your colleagues, in some way, shape, or form, good or bad, you are creating a form of influence. It's just a lot of times we don't realize that. And so the enemy, I believe, attacks women, especially women. When you look at the hate, when you look at the violence against women that we've experienced over the years, yes, some of it's been due to those toxic ideas, ideologies, and mental like I said, ideas and ideology and perceptions that people have had. But God put so much power in women. Look at Jesus' ministry. Okay, he was surrounded by women. I see a God who served women, who loved women, who respected women, who healed women, who protected women. And not only that, women were some of the first carriers of the gospel. Okay, if you think about it, we were some of the first carriers of the gospel. We held positions as judges and prophets. So think about Deborah in the Bible. That's roles of influence, all right? And Esther. How many of you know Esther? Some of you are saying, yes, you know who I'm talking about in the Bible. But Esther influenced the king to save a nation of people. And she may have used her sensuality to do that and to leverage that. But we have so much influence. And the one thing I want to note here is that, sometimes the world makes us believe that our only form of influence, or the only way we can rise up and grow, is to use our sexuality and our sensuality in our body. Don't get me wrong. I believe they are a very powerful part of who we are. Hey, listen, ladies, my married ladies, I'm a married lady. So I definitely use that sensuality and sexuality. Okay. But you are so much more than your ability to attract someone, and you don't have to use that as your way to leverage and get what you want and to get people to do what you want to do. You have your femininity, you have your mind, you have your gifts, you have a voice, you have your skills and experiences that you can use to leverage, to provoke, to create change and create impact. But it all begins with you understanding that. And so why is this so important, Joe? And those of you that are on here right now, once you understand, yes, I see you saying it's true, we are powerful. Once you truly understand this, you are going to start showing up differently. Okay, so when you understand this, you show up differently. You're more intentional with your words, with your actions, with how you choose, again, to show up in the world. Once you truly grasp that you are an influencer, that you are a powerful individual, and I want you to write that down right now. I am an influencer. I am an influencer in the comments. I am an influencer. And so it's not about the likes. It's not about the numbers, right? Yes, you can reach more people about, social media. And even when I was in Miss Black USA, the thing I loved about it was having a larger platform. But that didn't change the fact that I was able to start influencing within my own home. Okay, so understanding that is a game changer. And that was a game changer for me. So my next question to you was going to be about how did you discover and get clarity on your purpose? But you already answered that. And so someone is asking if you can recap that just briefly. But my question then, since you answered that one, is what was the thing that actually motivated you and caused you to fully own that purpose and show up as Shawana Cashel that we see before us?
Girl, my story is so interesting. It started back in 1999. I had gone to college for broadcasting. I wanted to be a news anchor. I wanted to report for one of the major TV networks, whether it's NBC, ABC, or CBS. And so I was so determined that that was what I was going to do right out of college that when I say worked so hard through my 4 years of college, like I started off, I was interning at Time Warner Cable the year before I started college, and I continued throughout the summers doing that. While in college, most kids maybe do one internship a year. I did two, one each semester. I worked a full-time job at the radio station. I worked at the TV station at Temple University. I worked at QVC at nights on some weekends. I mean, it was crazy, and I was going to school full-time. And I did all of that because I wanted my resume to be outstanding, that any network that would see my resume after college was going to say, that's my girl. She's going to get hired.
Right.
And hard work pays off. So I applied to all of these networks, and I was hired by ABC. And I couldn't believe it because people told me, they were like, you know what? You're not going to get a job in broadcasting right out of college. You're going to be like, bottom of the barrel. And I accepted that, but I was like, at least I'll get in. When I get in, I'm going to show them and then I'll rise. That was my vision. That was my determination. So I go into this meeting. They called me up and said, you got the job. We'd like you to come in. We'd like to talk to you. And I was like, okay, I'm going in to sign my contract, right? So we get into the meeting and they sit me down, and I'm sitting, across the table from maybe four other people. And they said, Shawana, we love your reel. And for those of you who don't know, your reel is pretty much all the footage of my newscast that they had been seeing, or all the things that I had done. So it was both audio and video reel. And so I was excited about that. And I went there. I remember putting on my Calvin Klein blue pinstripe suit. I was ready to go. Right. So I sit across this table, and this lady, at the time I had my natural hair is very curly. These are crochet braids in here, but I had naturally curly afro. And I sat down, and they said, we love you. We love your reel. And they're complimenting me. And I'm like, something is off. Like, why are they complimenting me like this? I know my stuff is good, but this is way too much. And they said, but we were wondering if instead of, at the time, my maiden name is Clark. And so instead of using your name, Shawana Clark, we were wondering if you'd like to have a new TV name. And I'm like, a new TV name? Like, Shawana Clark has been the name that I've been using, throughout the last 4 years that I've created, almost like a brand. At the time, we weren't talking brands, but this was my brand, my name. Yeah. And they said, we're thinking about Shannon Clark. Yeah. And I said, excuse me. And they're like, yeah, we think we like your name, but for TV, we think that it's a bit too ethnic.
Mm.
Y'all heard me. Ethnic is what they said to me. I didn't know, I was young at the time. I think I was like 22, and I was like, ethnic? Like, I really like my name, love my name.
Nice.
And then the next thing they hit me with is, and your hair is so pretty, Shawana. But what do you think about maybe throwing on a wig, for the newscast, something long and straight. And I remember thinking like, okay, wait a minute.
Mm.
My culture, they're trying to take that away.
Right.
My identity, they're trying to take that away. My confidence, shoot, they're trying to take that away. So I paused for a moment, and then I asked them, I said, do you mind if I get back to you? I just need to think about this. And if, I can call you later and tell you what I think. I mean, I was nervous. I was scared. I was young. Really, all I wanted was my mother.
Mm.
At that point, I was like one of those moments where you just want to fall into your mom's chest, have her hold you on the head, and just say, baby, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
4 years of my life, I had slaved really to the work to be told that I couldn't be me.
Mm.
I could not be me. Shawana to Shannon, y'all, that was a blow. It was like somebody just was constantly stabbing me. So that was that significant crisis that I told you guys about. I left there that day, got in my car, immediately called my mom, and I explained to her what had happened. And she said, Shawana, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, but I'm coming home. So I went home and I made the decision. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Good for
I'm
you.
not doing. And because I was young and immature, I decided that I wasn't going to do broadcasting at all. I'd spent 4 years of my parents' money, and I was done. That was it. That stripped my confidence away. I mean, it discouraged me. It deterred me. It depressed me. I was defeated. And I needed to find something that would encourage me, something that would motivate me, and something that would empower me.
Mm.
And the only thing that I could figure out was that I needed to work for myself. And in 1999, I remember my mentor helped me file my paperwork and said, okay, you're now in business.
Yes.
And I have not looked back since. And I think this was that was that stepping stone that made me say, you know what, they're going to look at me one day and say, we should have hired her. Now, I never got any phone calls saying, Shawana, you want to come back as Shawana. However, I felt good about myself because I was able to create my destiny, the way that I wanted to do it, the way that God had created me to do it. And I didn't need that job. I didn't realize that I had what it took to succeed on my own. So that was the thing that made me do what I'm doing, or that helped me or helped my journey to be what it is today. Yeah.
So powerful. And I think that even though you mentioned something, you were young and all these things, but you took a brave step, which a lot of us sometimes, not even in that circumstance, but just in everyday life, we shy away from, because we're scared that if we say no and hold our standard, then we're not going to get the job. We're not going to get the next one. It's going to block us from opportunities. But when you were true to your authentic self and those standards that you had in place, God created an opportunity for you to shift. And now you can show up as Shawana Cashel all day long.
Any day, all day. Yes, all day. So, I mean, what about you, girl? I know this has happened to you. So how about you sharing a little something?
So I've had this happen before, right? Where, a similar experience to that, I've been in pageantry most of my life, right? And my sense of self-identity, sense of beauty was tested a lot, especially being a Liberian American woman. I'm mixed. I'm Liberian. I'm Black American. My mom is white American, so I'm partly white, all these things. And so I struggled a lot. I wasn't the typical pageant girl. So you see, I didn't have my curly hair back then. My hair was straight, but I was shorter. I got, a little junk in my trunk going on, some shape. And that just didn't really fit in with the typical standard of beauty. And so I remember this one year I was competing in this pageant. I won't name the name of the pageant, but I wanted this so bad. And this was completely different than all the pageant systems I had competed in before. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to get a coach for the first time outside of my mom, because my mom was the coach. Okay. She was my coach this entire time. And so I met with this lady, and this pageant, it had swimwear. And that was my first time having to do swimwear. Okay. And I was in high school at that time, because it was a teen pageant. And I remember the lady looked at me, and she didn't mean harm, but, a white woman coach. And she was telling me, based on her experience, she said, this is a teen pageant, not a Miss pageant. And so
Ooh.
you cannot turn around in your swimsuit, and you're going to need to lose weight if you want to have a chance at even getting in the top. And so in that moment, I felt cut. I questioned my beauty, but I said, because I wanted it so bad, I said, you know what, I'm going to show up and I'm going to prove them wrong, right? So I was in the gym, I was working out, I got everything together. I showed up at the pageant. I did my thing. I didn't turn around, but I showed up with confidence. And I remember when I was in the interview portion, and the judge asked me, I had a judge ask me, if I could change one thing about the pageant, what would I change? And in that moment, I knew that if I mentioned the swimwear, that would count against me and most likely be a block to me moving forward. But I had that conviction, and I said, you know what? I would change the swimwear competition. I believe there are plenty of beautiful women in this world. Some are healthy. We come in different shapes and sizes. And just showing one standard of beauty, that doesn't mean that that's confidence, or that's beauty, or that's the standard. And so I would change that competition, open it up, make it to a fitness competition, and celebrate women of all different shapes and sizes, and promote health rather than a certain body type. And that judge just looked at me, and I remember he was like, well, don't you think it's promoting women to be unhealthy? And I said, absolutely not. I know a lot of women, big, small, different shapes, who are healthy. And I know a lot of women that are standing in front of us that look like they got it all together, who are in the back vomiting, starving themselves, because they're trying to hold up to a standard that is set. And I knew after that interview, it was a wrap. It was over. Even I told my mom what I said, and she cried. She said, why did you say that? I know you were being true to yourself, but I wish you didn't say that. That's part of why you didn't make it. But just like you, Show, I was young, and I had an opportunity to be true to myself and not hold back. I didn't win the pageant, of course, but praise God, I went on later. I won Miss Black Minnesota, Miss Black USA, and here we are today. And, two of the things that really helped me to discover purpose and walking in that and really owning that and being able to show up in that is, one, understanding that we were all created to glorify God. So ladies, you on here right now, it doesn't matter what space you're in. Maybe you're at a job that you don't even like and it's for the season. Maybe you feel like you're not holding a certain title. You were created to glorify God. And we can do that in so many ways. Show, you've been doing that through broadcasting, through television, through your programs, through Go Girl Grow. You're showing up and honoring that. I do that in my own way. And so once I started realizing that was my main and first purpose, that helped me through seasons when I felt like I didn't have a purpose, when my job was telling me I wasn't purposeful, when not having a job was telling me I wasn't purposeful, when other people were telling me I didn't have a purpose or deserve that. I had to get secure and understand that I was still operating in purpose because I was here to glorify God. And that looks and comes in so many different forms and variety. Secondly, being intentional. And I talked about this earlier, but just really getting intentional about showing up. And the moment I became intentional about operating in purpose, that's when as I mentioned before, I started becoming more aware of what I said, how I moved, how I operated, and how I showed up. And when you show up and become intentional, that helps you to really discover your purpose, because now a lot of us just go through life. doing things without even questioning what is my purpose, and asking those questions that you said earlier, show about, what sparks joy in me, what makes me come alive, what are things that I'm good at, what are things that people often come to me for. So many people never even ask those questions. But once you become intentional, you start to seek that, you start to ask those questions, and you start to discover what your true purpose really is. And so that was sort of my moment of many, of having to stand up for myself and discovering really what purpose is. And so my next thing I want to ask, and those of you that are on here, some of you on here, let us know, are you a creative? Are you creating already? Do you have a business? Are you thinking about creating and walking in purpose? Let us know in the comments if you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're creative, if you're part-time, full-time, or desiring to create. Definitely comment below in the chat.
Yes, let's connect with each other. That's important.
Yes, but I'm just curious. I'm desiring to create. Okay, creative. Okay.
Come on, y'all. Start typing.
I
There you
saw
go.
I'm desiring to create, creative. I'm creative, full-time entrepreneur, graphics and web design company. Okay, creative and
Yes,
thinking
yes.
about. I have a mommy channel on YouTube. Awesome.
Put the link. Put the link.
I started a business to sell what I create. Awesome. Making sure I didn't, because I know there's a little delay. Okay, I sew, speaker. Awesome. I desire to create. Okay. All right. So as you ladies are commenting below, what I want to do is, many of you are on this webinar because you are drawn to creating. You either felt that pull of purpose, you're an author, awesome, desiring to create, or you want to get started. And so tell us what are some ways that you've packaged your purpose, because I know what it's like I said, to be in that space of not knowing where to start, how to create, or even being able to package that purpose. So tell us, what are some of the ways that you've packaged your purpose?
Okay, so one of the things I talked about is me having the desire to connect. This season that I'm in, well, have been in probably for the past 5 years, is the season of empowering women while creating sisterhood. So one of the things that I started was My Sister's Journey, which you are one of the founding members of. It is it's actually Facebook. It's on Facebook, My Sister's Journey. If you guys are interested, please join the sisterhood on My Sisters, SISTAS Journey. It's on Facebook. Follow us, C-Day and 5 other amazing women share our journey. And actually, it's a platform where we share journeys from other people. So if you're part of it and you want to be on the journey, I think you said with an H, remove the H, it's SISTA apostrophe S. Yeah. To be a part of the journey, we basically uplift each other. So if you're doing something phenomenal, send us a message and we'll feature you on this website, because we just truly believe in empowering each other, inspiring each other, motivating each other through real life stories. So that's really important. I also created a hashtag movement called Go Girl Grow. And Go Girl Grow really is just when you see a sister friend doing something absolutely amazing, you don't even have to say, you did this, you did that. Because sometimes we're moving so fast. Once you type in Go Girl Grow, that means I love you. That means you're doing the darn thing. That means you inspire me. You encourage me. I'm proud of you. Just basically Go Girl Grow. So usually when I'm, going through and I'm seeing people doing amazing things, I have so much to do. I just hashtag them Go Girl Grow. And that's basically what that means. But beyond that, today is very symbolic for me having this webinar, because today was the day that we're supposed to be having this huge 500 women conference in Liberia.
Right.
And I was so devastated that we had to cancel this conference. And when CD asked me, what day do you want to do this webinar? I was like, please, let's just do it on the 11th, because I know I'll be very sad that day. So I am very encouraged and very excited about doing this. But today was going to be a powerful day in Liberia, and it will be. And I think even after all of this is over, that conference will be so necessary. So very excited that we are going to continue and do that again. So that's one of the other ways that I package it, bringing women together, creating a conference. I do sister circles here in the US as well as in Liberia. So just bringing women together, and sharing, opportunities, sharing conversations. Sometimes they get really deep. I mean, there's a lot of tears, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of laughter, but we get deep, in these sister circles. I've seen some of our sister circle members are actually in this chat right now from Liberia. So very excited about that. I've also, I do mentoring. I mentor a lot of people, a lot of young people. And that's been something I've been doing for the last 20 years, probably. And then I've also packaged it through blogs. So I share my story through blogs, and others. I had something called Her Story, where I would go and interview women that were doing something amazing and share their story online. Was hoping for somebody to pick it up and be like, hey, I want this on my, and I'll sponsor it. But I do a lot of the things that I do it for free. And like I said, out of those experiences and those things that I do for free, people contact me, ask me to pay me to speak at this event or do this or do that. So I work for free on the things that I do. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not thinking about the money, but when people see the product or see the results, my phone starts ringing. So I figured out the equation, the strategy, the things to do. So now that's how I operate. The last thing that I'm actually doing now, and that I'm really, really excited about, I've been wanting to do this for over 10 years. It's to write a book. I'm currently in my book writing stage, writing my very first book, and it's packaging everything that I've learned and all the stories and all the ups and all the downs and putting it all together. It's a book of journals, and it's all coming together. And y'all, this book, I don't know, it's really a hard book to write, because when you go back into stories that hurt you and the lessons you learned from those, it kind of wakes up, old feelings and old energy. And so it's been very difficult. I've even cried while I'm typing. I've laughed while I've, been typing, but that's, I think a way of packaging everything that I've done. I'm putting this into this book. It was supposed to be done by the end of this month. It's not going to happen because I lost my motivation this past month. I really did. But I regained it 2 days ago. So I'm back on track. So that's how I've done it. What about you?
So this is that's one of the ways I package my purpose. I saw we have another author on here. Some of you had talked about your desiring. So back in 2010, as I mentioned, y'all, I had no idea what I was doing. I told y'all I failed my basic standards test 3 times. Like, my grammar is not strong. And me and Sho, we talked about this. Even though I have this gift of speaking, and now I write through writing blogs, and I create all my content. I am the copywriter of my brand and things. I struggled, okay, with writing, with everything. So to write a book, I was like, what, girl? Who do you think you are to write a book? What do you have to say? But I was inspired to really write my first book. This is my first book. This is the original copy. So I wrote Recommitted, It's Not Too Late. Y'all, I talk more about this journey. It was a painful 2-year journey of writing this book. Okay, tears, losing my manuscript. I mean, I share more of this testimony in a project I'm working on right now called Write the Book, Write That Book, Girl. Write that book, girl. Write that book, girl. And I'm going to share more about my journey. But I basically took my experience of going through unhealthy love and experiencing toxic relationships and coming to a place of brokenness and starting over, which I explain in this book, my testimony even more, and making a decision that I wanted something different and make a radical change. And so I decided to stop having sex and to give all of myself to God and to wait until marriage. So that's how this book was birthed out of my experience as it pertained just to that healing piece, that self-love. And at that time, no one was talking about sex, love, and God. And when they were, it was just very like, stay a virgin till you get married. And I wasn't in that situation. I loved God. I loved Jesus. I gave my life to Christ as a young girl, but I was I was out there doing my thing. And so I was so scared at first to share this because it was so raw and so real. But it's a book that even now today, women told me it's full of deliverance. And so that was my very first like physical product that I packaged. And 3 years later, I ran into a woman named Carla R. Cannon, amazing sister friend, and we revamped the book. Hey, we gave it an uplift, upgrade. That's right. And I came out and really, like you said, I learned what a brand was. And so we had all my marketing materials made. I invested in this because at that time I had a good, stable job. So I invested my money into getting a revamp and branding myself. And then what other ways? Like I've also created journals. I created a journal recently called Her Game Changing Strategy is Prayer by L.A. Fierce. Some of you have this or know about this. This also came from, I have notebooks everywhere, right? Some of you said you're creatives, right? I have notebooks everywhere and notes everywhere. But I wanted to have a space to write my prayers. When you say you're going to pray for someone, to hold myself accountable and actually write that down, to be able to write out my visions before God, to pour out into this space. And so I created this for my own personal need. And then I just connected with my tribe and said, ladies, are you looking for this too? And they said, yes, this is something that we need and would love. And I said, why not make it beautiful? Thank you. I see some of you said you've been using it a lot. And so I share that to say, a lot of times you can create stuff from a need that you have, and you discover that other women that are in your tribe, that are in your community, that are at your office, they have that same need too. And so use that creativity to create. Over the years, I've packaged online events. I've done teleseminars. Some of you have taken a part of that. I see with my tribe. I've done challenges online. So the Fierce Confidence Challenge, I launched that 2 years ago when I was in France, and that was an online challenge. So ebooks, and the list is really endless. And I really, before I started doing events with people in the community and creating something more formal, I started off with my girlfriends. I would tell my girls, come over to my house and let's do a vision board session. And we would do vision boards. For Thanksgiving one year, I got girlfriends together who were single. And I said, you know what, girls, let's come together and say singled and satisfied. And we're going to have this Thanksgiving. We're going to discuss. And so really, wherever you are right now, you can start small. Don't be afraid to start small. Start with your circle and allow it to grow. Okay? I've never imagined that I would be doing what I'm doing, even now in Paris, France. I've hosted, workshops, and I've been invited to speak. And so I encourage you to really take the lid off the box. Take the lid off that box and give yourself the freedom to create and use the gifts that you have. Okay. So that's really what I've been up to. And I'm excited because I have, it's just when you're creative, you just feel so good to be able to create things and things that women need and want. That was my biggest thing. And I think once you get clear on that, and your purpose and who you're serving and called to serve, not everybody, but just the people that are for you, the creative process, it's hard, it's challenging. I've had to stretch myself, but you start to get at even more ideas when you tap into that. And so one thing I want to do is, my brand is all about confidence, right? Building up women in confidence. We know that running a business is not easy. Stepping up and showing up even today to do something like this, the average person wouldn't do. And so how did you even, give us 2 practical steps on how you built confidence to build your business and step out full-time, because you've been 21 years as a full-time entrepreneur. I'm part-time, and I've been fearful to step and make that journey. I'm not even going to, front or lie. So how did you get the confidence to really do that? Give us two practical steps that helped you and helps you now show up in your business and work full-time as an entrepreneur.
So it was out of desperation. So I said, I was really banking on this job. And because it didn't happen, I had to make it happen. So what I did was, instead of just saying, I'm going to start working right away because I knew it would be difficult, I decided first that I wanted to fall back on my minor, which was photography, and then let that broadcasting major rest for a second. And in order to do that, I wanted to open up a photography company. I was told that I was good at photography, I had a great eye. but I had no clue. I hadn't gone to school for business. And I'm like, okay, I don't want it to fail. Like, I'm a perfectionist. I don't like to fail at anything that I do. So I decided to work for a school photography company. And we would go, the photography companies that go to your kid's school, take pictures, charge you an arm and a leg, and then, you pay them. So I was working for a company in Philadelphia called Devorah, and it was very similar to Life Touch. Some of you might know either of the two. And when I got the job, I realized that I could do this on my own. But I also understood that just taking pictures of children would not make me successful in what I wanted to do. I had to learn the back end, the business side of things. So within this type of work, there's pre-production, which is creating the flyers, doing the marketing, sending out the letters, and connecting with the schools. Then there's actually taking the pictures, and then there's post-production. Once the pictures are done, taking them to post-production for them to develop them, for them to package them, for them to distribute them. So I needed to learn all of that. But how was I going to do this? I made friends with the people in these departments. So even though I would do my job when I came in to turn in my pictures, I would hang out with post-production. I would hang out with, pre-production, and volunteer my time. I'm like, yeah, let me help you. And as I'm helping them, I'm looking at the paper like, oh, okay, so that's how they do this. Oh, okay, so how do you enter it? So you're sending letters to everybody? Oh, so you contact the school and so all of those different things I was learning from the back end. And so I became a sponge, and I absorbed every single thing that I could learn. And a year later, I went to them and said, this is it. I'm leaving. And I was scared out of my mind. But what happened is, while I was working for that company, I started my company on the side. And that first year of working for myself, I made $5,000. And that's all I needed. I was like, I made that thing was huge to me, that I made $5,000. And so I was like, if I can make $5,000 working part-time, now that I'm ready, I can step out on faith and do this full time. I might make 10,000. And sure enough, the second year I made 10,000. And mind you, I don't have all the responsibilities that I have now. So 10,000 was good money working on your own back in I think it was, by that time, it was probably 2000. So 10,000 was really, really good. By the time 2008 got there, my gross income was $450,000, almost $500,000. Blew my mind. In your face, ABC. I did this on my own. You were going to hire me and pay me $30,000 a year, and that's all I was going to make, unless I made it up a little higher. Boom. I made almost $500,000 until the recession, but we'll talk about that. The second thing that I would suggest that people do is to do market research. A lot of times we might say, oh, you know what? I love to do this and I want to do this, but you haven't done your research. So for example, when I moved to Liberia in 2009, I remember saying to myself, because I had gone to visit in 2005, I was like, you know what? I don't like the idea of getting in a taxi with 6 people in the back and 4 people in the front. I just couldn't do it. So I wanted to come up with a taxi service that had an AC in the taxi, that would only have 3 people in the back and 1 person in the front, and people could call the taxi if they wanted to. So, just like how the taxi services ran here. And this is what I was going to do. I was going to invest in my first 2 taxis and have that generate money enough for me to get more taxis. But when I got to Liberia with just my car alone, I didn't realize that Liberia didn't have qualified mechanics. So my poor little car that I had could not be maintained. I literally, I don't even know. I remember this guy fixing my car. The engine, something was wrong with the engine. He took apart the entire engine. It took him about a month. I remember going and saying, what's wrong with my car? I need my car. And I see my entire engine on the ground, screws all over the place. And I was like, just put it back together. He puts it back together. I go there 4 days later. He's like, the car is ready. In that same area where the screws were, I'm looking at maybe 100, 200 more screws just sitting on the ground, but my car is back together. And I'm like, weren't those screws from my car? And he was like, yeah, but you don't need them. And that was it. The idea of bringing in a car service into Liberia and having a mechanic like this take care of my cars, it wasn't going to work. I would have lost so much money. So in being there, learning about it, and I realized at that time why nobody was doing that type of service. And it was because we didn't have the mechanics. Had I not, seen that, I would have lost so much money. So maybe your idea is a great idea, but it's not right for that community. It's not right for that particular time. Or maybe there's way too many of these in that particular area. So the market is saturated and you're not going to make money because people will be loyal to those people who've been there for longer. So market research is extremely important. So if there were any two practical steps that I would tell you, it'd be an apprentice, work, absorb, be a sponge, and then two, do your market research.